Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to BWTM Sports Gaming. So, it's Amir Khan versus Kell Brook. The fight is upon us this Saturday night. We have a big fight ahead of us. I haven't got caught up into the hype of, Kell Brook and Amir Khan being past the sell-by date. I'm not interested in that. I've always wanted to see these two guys fight, and now we get an opportunity to see it. So I'm one of those boxing fans. Are pretty grateful and real happy that this fight is happening. There's a lot of fights on Saturday night that I would rather not be watching, and have the opportunity to watch Kell Brook and Amir Khan fight. For these particular shows, I will just be sharing my thoughts. I'll be sharing my thoughts and then I will do an open talk about it afterwards. So let's talk about Khan versus Brook. And first of all, I want to talk about Amir Khan. I want to talk about his training camp, what I've seen of it, the initial thoughts that are going through my mind. I've delayed this video some bit because you can always, well, for me, I've watched these things, many of these fights before, like the build-ups and stuff. So for me, it's important that I get as much info as possible. Sorry, I've got a nasty spider crawling around. But it's important that I get as much info as possible and leave it to as late as possible when watching these like things like gloves are off, and particularly behind the ropes. And I'll explain why. For those of you who don't know, these videos, these shows are well edited. Okay, let me tell you, well edited. There's nothing in these videos or these shows that you watch. They say it's behind the scenes. Oh, they say it's behind the scenes, but it's very much. Let me turn my fan off. Hold on. Sorry, apologies. Let me turn my fan off and come back to you. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, let me get back to it now. So these videos are well edited. Understand this. They're well edited. And so there's nothing you're seeing that's really behind the scenes that is actually behind the scenes. Because everything you're seeing has been approved by the trainer, has been approved by the fighter, has been approved by the advisory team, right? It doesn't just go out like that. Unlike maybe an Anthony Joshua video that's leaked every time he goes out training and every coach is with, this is not leaked. This stuff is, very well put together, almost like a script. And I can tell you firsthand, working with various fighters who've come either to the UK or fought abroad, the strategy that's used, even when they're doing the workouts. I've said this to you many times. So what you see on the camera is what they're allowing you to see, nothing more, nothing less. So I will only make an assessment of what I've seen of Khan. So what I've seen of Amir Khan and Bomac, the one thing I picked up straight away about Amir Khan, and I said this way back when he turned pro, if Amir Khan had a top trainer when he turned pro, he'd have been a much better fighter. A much better fighter. I probably wouldn't have got knocked out the way he got knocked out, because I just noticed that he left one trainer. I don't know who he was. He left one trainer and he went to another trainer, and what he should have done is gone to work on defense. He went to Freddie Roach, who didn't teach defense and taught attack. And Khan's problem wasn't his defense. It wasn't his attack. It was his defense. His defense was always the problem. See, when Vladimir Klitschko got knocked out by Ross Purity, he was attack, a gold medalist in the Olympics. And he was blowing everybody out as a pro. And then he came against Ross Purity, who was able to give him some resistance, hit him back on the chin, and knock him out or stop him late. So Klitschko went with Emmanuel Stewart and he tidied him up and gave him more of a defensive approach because his chin wasn't the greatest. That's what they did with Klitschko. But with Khan, he went already be having defensive flaws and not the greatest chin in the world to Freddie Roach, who taught attack, 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 attack. And well, that made Khan a very exciting fighter. It made him even more vulnerable. And of course, he was vulnerable to getting knocked out, which he did. And then he went with Virgil Hunter, which Virgil Hunter for me is a trainer that, apart from Andre Ward, if you look at Virgil Hill's record, to be honest, it's not that impressive. And when you've got a trainer that is made or is known for one particular fighter, and their legacy is built around that one particular fighter, i.e., when you talk about Freddie Roach, you talk about Manny Pacquiao. When you talk about Virgil Hunter, you'll talk about Andre Ward. When you talk about Bomac, really, you're talking about Terence Crawford. Yeah, he's trained other fighters, but it's not the same, is it? The same success. And I want to say the pros and cons for that. So Khan is training with Bomac, who I've met, and I think he's a great guy and a disciplinarian. And Bomac knows boxing. He understands boxing. He's very knowledgeable about sport. He's not gonna when Khan says no stone has been left unturned, you better believe that. You better believe that, because a lot of the stuff I criticize Amir Khan for, standing in the same place, throwing the same combination over again. You look at the way he got knocked out by Canelo, and you look at the way he got knocked out by Garcia, and the way he got knocked out by Prescott. These are all guys that timed Khan. This is when Khan will set up an attack and stayed in the same place too long and got timed. The three guys that knocked him out, the guys that knocked him out, look at the Canelo fight. Canelo, he was on top of Canelo, throwing all those combination punches, and what happened? As soon as he got in position with Canelo, he threw a nice combination, but Canelo set it up. He went to the body first, brought Khan's hands down, and brought Khan threw a combination 1-2, and he went for another combination, and then Canelo caught him as he was throwing that same predictable punch. Got caught with the top of his right hand, I believe, and knocked Khan flat on his back, right? And that's a guy who's probably weighing possibly 30 pounds more than 25 to 30 pounds more heavier than Khan on the night. Considering Khan came from lightweight, Canelo was probably weighing like a cruiserweight that night, so he got flattened by one right hand. And he even said in previous interviews that he didn't know what he was doing in the ring with Canelo that night. So that's just something that I think Khan may have learned about from the Canelo fight, about people rehydrating. And I guess that's what he put in the situation with Brook. Now, one of the things I've noticed with Boback is that he's constantly talking to Khan about, keeping his left hand up when he's jabbing. When he jabs, he tends to do that. There's something that my old trainer, who trained Steve Robinson and Barry Jones, both former world champions, my trainer used to say to me, bow and arrow. Bow and arrow. See, basically, you're there all the time. Your bow and arrow, you side on your bow and arrow. So make sure this hand is up all the time, protecting the left hand. Left hand is up, cocking the left hand, and you've got the right hand there. You're throwing your jab there, or your jab is there, and you're protecting that. That is protecting your chin under there, and you're jabbing here. Khan's got a habit of doing that. When he jabs, sometimes he does that. When the hands drop and he does that, which is easy to get caught over the top. So Bomac, we watch him in camp, was saying to Khan, those are areas he needs to correct. And Bomac was working to him, correcting him. And he's telling him about speed and throwing clusters of punches, which he does a lot. But he'll stand in the same spot, throwing his clusters of punches. And when you do that once and twice, you can get timed. And you don't really want to be doing it against someone like Kell Brook, because he'll time him. That's Kell Brook's strength, timing. He'll catch you over the top of that right hand. So Khan's got to be careful of those shots with Brook. But I noticed Bomac was right on top of Khan all the time. He was on top of him in training camp. He wasn't giving Khan a chance, the opportunity to make those mistakes. So he was right on top of him. See, when you watch these videos, you don't know when the videos were being filmed, right? You say Khan came into camp, right? But to me, he didn't look, to me, he didn't look that sharp. He looked to me like he'd been into, it was old video footage that they put out of Khan training. And it wasn't like up-to-date footage. That's the impression I was getting. I might be wrong, but I don't see any reason why you would put out footage of you sparring and putting combinations together and stuff like that and what you're working on so close to a fight. I wouldn't have put that out, which led me to believe that this is old footage that was put out. Was it footage that was put out like when he first came into camp, when the Brook fight was announced, or was this video put out before we knew of the Brook fight? Because he'd been in camp and he'd been training with Crawford before the actual fight was announced, remember? Was it then? Because a fight can improve so much, and he didn't look that sharp and that quick in camp. Yes, he's got an older Khan. I do bear that in mind. Another thing that people have talked about, and Khan's really hyped about, we talked about a lot. Oh, well, Bomac trained Terence Crawford to beat me, and he trained Terence Crawford to beat Brook. Okay, so here's the fors and against with that. Now, the for is that you have a guy in the corner that knows you both very well, right? And he's obviously being paid to ensure that you get the victory against Brook. Now, there's a few things here. Brook didn't do his best against Crawford. I'm not saying to beat Crawford, but he wasn't in the same sort of shape that I believe he will be in for the Khan fight. So there are things that Brook probably would not have done in that fight against Crawford that he will do against Khan because he's in much better shape. And he, like, when you've done really 12 hard rounds and fitness, and you can do the 12 rounds easy, you fight at a different pace. You fight with a sort of confidence about you. If you know you've been cutting corners in camp, and then you're going to fight pound for pound the best fighter in the world, there's a difference. There's the confidence isn't in the work the same way. So Brook was looking to kind of blag that situation as far as the way I look at it. He was looking to blag that situation. So and words that his own trainer was saying about him, payday, were the words that his trainer was saying to him. So I'm a bit I'm not convinced that was probably the best Kell Brook, the best conditioned Kell Brook for that fight against Crawford, but it's still Kell Brook. Technically, it's still Kell Brook. And so I don't know how sharp Brook was going into that fight against Crawford. Crawford still did a number on him. But the key denominator of both of those fights is it's Terence Crawford. Pound for pound, best fighter, or arguably second best fighter in the world. Unified, undisputed champion at light welterweight, welterweight champion of the world. Box is very different to Khan. Can box orthodox and southpaw. We've known Crawford for years on this channel. So, a very, very technically good fighter. But he doesn't rely on speed like Khan does. Crawford's got a far better IQ than Khan has. Khan has got probably faster hands, but Crawford has got the more precise timing. So, and there are other things. So that's something that maybe Khan may have sort of forgotten in his training camp, that, hey, that was Terence Crawford that beat both guys, not you. So the things that Crawford may be able to do, Khan might not be able to do, and he might not be able to execute as well. If Crawford gets hit with a shot, he seems to be able to have a decent chin, and he won't get hit with the sort of shots that Khan won't get hit with. And when you've got a lower IQ, and I've always said that Khan's IQ is not the greatest, because he'll stand, like I said, in the same spot and throw the same combination more than once, and he can be timed. But I'm hoping, which I think now is happening, I could be wrong, based on his Olympic gold pedigree, or silver medalist pedigree, right? So his Olympic pedigree and the World Championship pedigree, that Bomac will bring the very best of Khan later in his career. We've seen it done in the heavyweight division. I'm not sure if it can happen in light or weight divisions. I'm not sure because of obviously taking weight off, putting weight on, taking weight off, putting light weight on, and how Khan's been living the lifestyle outside of boxing where they even thought he was ever going to box again. So those are things that come through my mind when I'm thinking Khan and Brook. But they seem a good team together, Brook and Bomac. But the real test for Brook and Bomac is when they're in that corner and Khan is in a big fight against Brook. The thing that I think Khan's got the advantage of against Brook, one of the advantages I think he's have is because I think he's going back to school. I think Bomac's taking Khan back to school. I think he's teaching him the boxing fundamentals, when to engage and when not to engage. Is it too late for the Olympic silver medalist to make those changes? Is it his boxing IQ, or has it been his trainers that have been giving him poor instructions that have, has it been the instructions that they've been giving Khan been to his detriment? Because Bomac seems to really be correcting Khan. If Khan can listen to what Bomac has told him, it could be make for a very interesting fight. They say timing beats speed, but you still got to time the individual. But from what I've seen of Khan, and I don't really want to take too much into that sparring footage or what I've seen of him in those videos, that Bomac is trying to get the very best out of Amir Khan, and that can only be a good thing. Could we still see, even in the later stage of his career, a polished performance from Khan, where he's able to see? I think Kell Brook can only fight for me one way, but I think Khan, because of his Olympic pedigree and because of the big fights, you see, this is not Khan. If I were Amir Khan, I was thinking about how I go about beating Kell Brook. I would look at the Danny Garcia fight, because if you look at Danny Garcia, much like Kell Brook, flat-footed, much like Kell Brook, does rely on power and with timing. You see how Khan was able to blitz Danny Garcia, blitz him with those fast combinations. What he can't do, he stayed there too long and got nailed with a big left hook. That was a fight I bet against Khan. And the reason why I bet against Khan was because he let his heart rule his head, right? He said at the press conference, "I'm going to knock you out." And I said, the minute he said he's going to knock Garcia, I thought, I'm going straight to the bookies, because he's going to try and knock Garcia out, literally. And if he tries to do that at Garcia's going to time him, because Khan will fight with emotion. And that's what lost Khan that fight, because Angel Garcia got the father got inside of Khan's head, played mind games. So I talking to him about the flying carpet and stuff like that, Aladdin, and Khan ain't got no chin and stuff. And Khan got wound up and wound up and wound up. And he really had real bad sparring sessions at the wildcard. He was in wildcard gym, and he had that really bad sparring session where he was getting into wars in the camp with Freddie Roach, which is why I never did rate that partnership between Khan and Roach. Now, it could be that Khan is unteachable, he's uncoachable. Then I retract what I've said about Khan and his making improvements. Why he keeps making those mistakes over and over again? It's because you can't teach him anything. He don't listen. He's got to a point where he's a superstar now. He can't listen. So if you can't listen, then he'll make the same mistakes again. If you can listen, then again, I'll look at the Danny Garcia fight as the blueprint as how to beat Brook. The only difference between Brook and Garcia is that Brook can switch from orthodox to southpaw. Yeah, he's got that switch hitting style. But when you switch from orthodox to southpaw, you can get caught in between the two. So it's going to be interesting. But Khan, this is just another big fight for Amir Khan. A fight he must win. He's been in grudge matches. He's been in big fights before where he hasn't liked the guy, i.e. Danny Garcia, right? He's been in rival fights in Britain, Michael Gomez, Willie Lemond. He's been in those fights. He's had the experience of those fights before. He's been in the mega fight. He's been in with Canelo. Okay, so You know, he had fight against Marcus Maidana, at Devon Alexander. We can reel off the guys, Marc Antonio Barrera. These guys are probably better technically than Kell Brook. So Khan is probably, he's fought the better opponents, but he may have the more miles on the clock as well. I mean, the Crawford fight, he probably took a sustained beating, maybe. But if you look at Brook's career, I mean, he's taken a shellacking. He took a shellacking with Golovkin, right? He took a shellacking with Spence, right? Because that's round after round after round after round. At least with Khan, he gets hit with a shot against Kell, boom, he's knocked out. It's not like he was taking round after round of punishment with Canelo. Got nailed with one shot and knocked out against a guy who was, as I said, 20 to 30 pounds heavier than him on the night. Against Prescott again, it was shot. Got caught the shot, got hurt, and got knocked out. Who else knocked him out? Let's think. Danny Garcia fight. He didn't take a shellacking. He was out boxing Garcia. Got nailed with the big left hook. And then from that, you know, he was disorientated. And obviously, even then in that fight, he was on his feet against Garcia. He didn't get knocked out. He got stopped on his feet. But when you look at the beatings that Brook has taken, both eye sockets, you know, he's beaten until he's beaten the spirit out of him. Golovkin fight, won. Golovkin fight, Spence fight, and then the Terence Crawford fight. You know, he got caught with one shot by Crawford, but that showed his durability there. So I don't know. I don't know what Brook has got left, but I hope that Khan, out of the two of them, and look at Khan, he seems the more calm, relaxed guy. It's like, I've been here before. I fought guys. I don't know if he's trying to convince himself that he's fought better opposition than Brook. He has to keep reminding himself, yeah, I fought better opposition than you. I fought better guys than you. I beat better guys than you. But you know that. You don't have to keep saying it over and over again, or just keep telling yourself it over and over again. But in terms of his training camp and what I've seen, as I said before, I think Bomac has really jumped on top of Khan and tried to cut those mistakes out. I don't know if that's going to be fully ingrained into Khan when the red mist goes up, and whether he will pay attention to those, the game plan. But he should do, based on his experience fighting at a higher level and much bigger fights, the Olympics and stuff like that, the World Championships. So overall, Khan has been on a much bigger platform than Brook. And if he can stick to the game plan, then I believe the game plan will be is for Brook to be the bull and for Khan to be the matador. What I mean by that is this. Usually Kell Brook's the guy that sits on the back foot and he waits and then he jumps at you and he sets up. He just got to plant his feet to get shots off, and he'll come for you. He'll look for shots and then try and catch you with timing. I think what Khan's going to do is wind up Brook, wind him up. So Brook, as he said, loses his head, and Brook comes charging out at Khan, and Khan circles the ring, left to right, right to left, left to right, right to left, pinging Brook with jabs, and as he comes in, hitting him with hard right hands, tying him up on the inside. He may even fight Brook on the inside, because Brook doesn't fight well on the inside. So Khan may come in and away. So look to pepper Brook and catch him with something as he tries to come in. And don't allow him the time to time. So keep turning Brook, and getting Brook more and more angry. Because Brook hates Khan. He's made it clear he hates Khan. And the bitterness is so intense here. I believe that if Khan can stay calm, he can capitalize on Brook's anger. It's there. And I'm sure at the press conference, Khan will be out again, really trying to piss Brook off. That's what I think will happen. He's going to try and piss Brook off even more at the press conference, piss him off, say more things. So I think he saved some stuff for Brook, let him know a bit more about himself, piss him off even more, getting really irate for the face-off, really irate. And then at the weigh-in, even let him have a bit more, that he actually loses his head. So come fight night, all the training with Dominic Ingram, all the pad work, all that stuff goes out the window, and he comes charging out for Khan. And Khan is there, who just boxing, bam, just off the jab, bam, bam, off the jab. And he can do it. He can do it. And it's interesting. If you look at what Bomac and his team are wearing, particularly the guy in the corner, he's wearing Ali. Khan dressed in white, black and white. I think we're going to see Amir Khan's version of float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. That's what I believe is going to happen. Wind Kell Brook up and then box. You've boxed far higher level in the amateurs, as an Olympic silver medalist, world championships, better opposition you've boxed against. Kell might be bigger and he might be stronger, but is he better? I don't know. And for you to be able to time Khan, your own reflexes have to be sharp as well. And all the weight draining and stuff, I don't know. I don't know how this fight all turns out. But in terms of my preview for Amir Khan, if you can follow the game plan that Bomac puts together, and he'll put down a damn good game plan. And you see, one thing I appreciate as a coach, where he's got his camera and he's filming Khan. And what I do as a coach, video analysis, which is cool. It's key, where you can look at a fighter and you break everything down. You watch clip by clip by clip, where you're throwing, like he might be talking about how he's got his hand low, he's throwing shots, maybe the way he's pulling back from shots, he's leaving himself open for uppercuts maybe. He'll look for where Brook will throw the straight right hand through the middle. That's what he likes to do. That straight right hand, he likes to do that. Brook jump in and throw it right hand. He may look at stuff like a Bomac in segments when he's sparring and think, okay, this is what we need to work in here. We need to do this here. Maybe don't leave ourselves so exposed that way. Move this way because Brook maybe, and they will look at those things. But ultimately, it's gonna be down to Amir Khan. And yeah, that's it. I think that's about it. Yeah. So those are my thoughts. Please do drop your comments in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe, leave your comments. I'm trying to stay as cool and calm about this as possible and not get too involved. It's a great fight. It's a big fight. I wish I could just sit back and watch it. But yeah, I've got to do a video on it, of course. So thank you so much for the support as always. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, leave your comments, share the video. This has been BWTM Sports. Let me know your thoughts on how Khan's training has been going. Are you a believer that Bomac is the right guy for Khan? What would have happened if Bomac was at the start of Khan's career? Or do you believe that Khan's too far gone now and he's just going to come out and box like he normally would do and make the same mistakes? Right, I'm out of here. Again, thanks for watching. This has been BWTM Sports. Take care.